speech. So seductress. Yes or no? If you can see the poll, please answer the poll. If you can't see the poll, leave, come back in. Should there be limits to freedom of speech? MC. Welcome to Truth or Theory. If you are just tuning in, this is a safe space where we think differently, we dive deep, and we question everything in a fun and curious way. Hi. Okay. Let me know. Let me know. I feel like I see 2 yeses. Let me see. Let me read the room. Thank you. Should there be limits to freedom of speech? Jamie. And I think this is a poll that we're going to continuously do throughout the night, kind of as more people pull up in here. I see 4 yeses, 0 no's. So no one thinks that freedom of speech should be no limits. No, you're not late. You're just in time. Thank you. So if you are just tuning in, welcome to Truth or Theory. This is a safe space where we think differently, we dive deep, and we question everything in a fun and curious way. So, 4 yeses for should there be limits to freedom of speech. Seems like everybody wants there to be limits. So we're gonna dive deeper into that tonight. Thank you guys for answering that poll. Tonight, we will be allowing anyone to get into the box, but we are featured. So let me go over some rules. So if you are wanting to request that box, we're gonna do date box method until we feel like we have enough people who are giving insights. So tonight, please just make sure that you keep it respectful. There's no cussing, no smoking, no being in the car, and no being rude to the guests. Make sure you fave different people. If we're vibing, in theory, there should be no limits, but in practice, we all know how that plays out, right? Just make sure you keep it featured friendly, okay? Anyone's welcome in the box tonight. And we're gonna really just roll into the questions, and I'm gonna see how you guys are feeling about it. And we do have a game planned for later. So the first question is, when you hear freedom of speech, what does that mean to you personally? Freedom of speech. What does freedom of speech mean to you? Feel free to answer in the chat, and also you can hop in the box if you would like to be in the box and give your answer. The freedom to speak your opinion. Okay. Okay, we don't need no 7. Oh, 7.
The question was that when we hear freedom of speech, what does it mean personally? To us, freedom of speech means this. It is the right to speak without dealing, to spit truth even when it shakes the room. It is the blade you draw when the world lies to your face and demands that you smile. But to us, it is not a right, Miss Bay. It is a test. It is a test of will, a test of consequence. You are free to speak, but only if you are ready to bleed for it. There is no reactions, no contradiction, no coward's retreat. If you speak, then stand upon it. In our world, freedom of speech is not a shield. It is a weapon to be used wisely, or do not speak at all.
Wow. Okay, so basically what I gathered from that is your viewpoint is it's basically like, if we're speaking, be ready to bleed. Like you have the freedom to speak, but you're not free from consequences.
Yes.
Okay. I like that. Let me do this blind date. You can get back in. Okay, yes. Hey, a question is, when you hear freedom of speech.
Are you a California raisin?
When you hear freedom of speech, What does that mean to you personally? I can't, in this medium, on this platform, very people stand by their word. Intent does matter. He's correct. The intention behind what you're saying. And wait, so Hazel, so you're saying like you feel like, so out of the majority, you feel like most people don't stand behind their word, like freedom to speak out against the government without fear of jail. Say what you want. Okay, freedom to speak out against the government without fear of jail. I think that is the most controversial aspect of this. Well, actually, I learned that's what I thought. That's what I thought. I thought that was the most like interesting aspect of freedom of speech. Like, I mean, we can't really say anything because some things literally will have you in jail, right? But we're going to kind of talk about that in a little bit too. Say what you want, but you got to live with the consequences, whatever they may be. Yes, yes, yes. Welcome, welcome, everybody. We all wish. So once again, before I go into my fun fact for question one, the first question is, when you hear freedom of speech, what does it mean to you personally? We don't need the legal definitions, just your personal understanding. What does freedom of speech feel like to you in real life? Exactly. The consequences can put you in jail, even if it's technically your freedom and your right to do so and say so. And I think so. Hazel sent me an article earlier, and I feel like that kind of goes into this article as well. But before we get into that, everybody, welcome to Truth or Theory. If you are just rolling in, tonight's topic is about the freedom of speech. Wanting to hear some personal definitions, like what does freedom of speech mean to you? And anyone is welcome to request the box, or feel free to drop your replies down in the comments. Just please be respectful. So the first fun fact of the night is freedom of speech was never meant to protect safe opinions. It wasn't meant to protect safe opinions, popular takes, or ideas that people already clap for. It was built to protect the voices that disrupt, that challenge, and the voices that make people feel uncomfortable, the ideas that make people uncomfortable. So people in power has always had the microphone. They never needed free speech laws. The protection really was created for us, for the ones that really don't have a platform or a status or the safety, the ones punished for asking hard questions, naming injustice, or refusing to stay quiet. So all this kind of ties into this truth or theory. So shout out to Meet Me for giving us the platform to create a platform like Truth or Theory, because that's literally why Truth or Theory exists. It's not a space about being right. It's not a space about being the loudest or winning arguments. It's about letting our ideas breathe, and like even our messy ones, even if we aren't too sure. Like Hazel was saying, not everybody stands behind their words. Maybe because sometimes when we're talking, we don't even know what we're talking about. But just having a safe place to even ramble if you need to about a topic that you're still trying to figure out how you feel, because most times I'm still trying to figure out how I feel. Like I have my set beliefs, and then I have my like it's things that resonate with me, so it makes me interested to understand a little deeply, you know but that's why truth or theory exists. It's not about comfort, it's about friction. Truth or theory is where we sit in the friction long enough to think, listen, and decide for ourselves what's truth and what's theory. I'm just exercising my freedom of speech. Okay, let me go through some comments. It was meant to protect public voices. Privately, it's been applied, but technically, legally, it was meant to protect the public voice only. Okay. Hello, everybody. Ruby, They can say what that we can say what we want regardless of people's feelings. Okay. Yes, so that's your definition. I love that. Hello, everybody. If you are just tuning in, we're wanting to know your personal definitions right now about freedom of speech. What does freedom of speech mean to you? What do you think it means today? Do you think it's changed? Okay, we're not going to get into that yet, but yeah, that's what we're talking about tonight. So thank you for tuning in. Originally, it was created for religious purposes, so no one had to practice any religion. Whoa. See, this is something that I like an aspect that I didn't learn about. Um, and I feel like that's probably going through the article you sent me. If you are just tuning in, y'all, welcome to Truth or Theory. We are about to be moving into our second question. I just want to let everybody know that this is a safe space. We like to think differently, we dive deep, and we question everything in a fun and a curious way. Please fave anyone in the comments. Hi, Stud Barbie. Anyone in the comments that you're vibing with, and you feel like what they have to say resonates with what and who you are. And if you want to be a guest on future shows when we're not being unorthodox and allowing anyone in the box, just let us know. And if you have any topics that you feel like would be a good fit for us to discuss on the show, let us know. You can drop the topics in there. If I like it enough, I might write it down. Okay. Okay. So on to question 2. Are there limits that you believe that should exist on free speech? And basically, based on the poll, everybody agreed. Everybody agreed that there are. And let me see. Where is that at? Can you guys hear the clicking? Click, 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 click. I sound like a what? Absolutely, they're correct. Wow. Wait, what? How did I phrase it the first time? Was it opposite? Because wait, why is it opposite answers then? No limit. No limit. Should freedom of speech have limits? So only one person is saying that freedom of speech should have no limits. Wait, should freedom of speech have limits? Yes. So one person is saying they think it should have limits, and 6 people is saying no limits. Earlier, 4 people said yes. Okay. Now this is looking more like, okay. Y'all was beginning to worry me earlier. I was like, uh-oh. Okay, should freedom of speech have limits? I see 7 no's, 1 yes. Who is the yes? Who thinks? Or is that a typo? Nuh-uh. I see 1 yes and 7 no's. Oh, okay, so 2 yeses. 2 yeses and 6 no's. Okay, I see what you're saying now. Okay, so your count, that one didn't count. Okay, awesome. So we are going to be moving. Hi, 7.
Hello again. The second question proposed was, should freedom of speech have limits? We answer to this a resounding yes. Because without limits, speech becomes a weapon of chaos, not truth. Uncontrolled, it enables lies that birth genocides, propaganda that topples nations, and dogma that shackles minds. Freedom without boundaries is not liberty, it is anarchy dressed as idealism. So, yes, there must be limits because they must be forged in reason, not fear, and guarded by the strong and not manipulated by the powerful. Every system, even darkness, requires order. If you allow
Mm.
every voice to scream without a filter, and soon nothing can be heard. The noise drowns out the signal, chaos reigns, truth becomes indistinguishable from madness. You do not hand a loaded gun to a child. So why hand a global platform to every delusional ideologue who believes the moon is hollow and vaccines are microchips? Limits are not about control. They are about containment. Like a
Mm.
fire in a forge, like voltage in a wire, speech without structure becomes destructive, not liberating. It is a dangerous lie of absolute freedom. Those who carry the loudest for absolute freedom of speech, they are rarely interested in truth. They want the protection for their filth, their racism,
Mm.
their conspiracies, their power games. But here is a shadow law. If your words strip others of their safety, strip them of their dignity or their humanity, then your words are not free. They are tools of domination, and domination without purpose is tyranny. We do not muzzle speech because it offends. We muzzle it because it can corrode. There is a difference here. Let the
Mm.
bold speak. Let the dissenters challenge the throne. Let the comedians mock the powerful. That is the fire that keeps the world from freezing. But the deceivers, the poisoners, the ones who shout fire in a crowded theater just to watch it burn, they should be silenced brutally without remorse, because in the dark, words kill, words hold power, words carry weight. And if you cannot kill with clarity, then you do not deserve to speak with power. We do not protect all speech. We protect speech that earns its right to exist.
Wow. I want to clap. That speech was actually okay. So that in basis to are there limits you believe that should exist on free speech? Seven basically feels like the limits exist to keep order, to keep speech from becoming chaos, right? I love that. And I loved everything about the delivery too. I like it. Thank you. Jamie was touching on some points. Silence is powerful as well. Let's not forget that. I Let me go back up. You had mentioned that structured speech can be just as dangerous. I like how Seven mentioned that, it feels like we need that structure. And then there is some structure that can create chaos as well, right? So I think it does come down to how we, like a personal perspective. Um, and I guess, yeah, I see. Yeah, it's just an opinion. It sounds nice. It's still just an opinion. Um, are there limits that you believe that should exist on free speech? And we had seven no's, right? Well, no, we had six no's. We had two yeses. So two people believe that we should have limits, and six people believe that we should not have limits. Where are we standing at in the chat as of now? Do we feel that freedom of speech should have limits or no? And next fun fact. So this is usually, and that's so crazy because I had already put this in my format, that for question 2, are there limits you believe that should exist on free speech? And if so, what are they? I said this is usually where the opinions would split. Absolute freedom versus responsibility and impact. Let me see. And so, okay, so let's go into our fun facts. Even in countries with the strongest, hold on, let me make sure is it blind date? Yeah. Even in countries with the strongest free speech protections, absolute free speech has never truly existed. Absolute free speech has never truly existed. Do we agree with this? Depending on understanding perspective, yes. Do we believe that absolute free speech has never truly existed? Every society across history, culture, and political systems. I actually know Wizard. He was standing up to probably try to turn up. Every society across history, culture, and political systems has drawn lines around speech in some form. So I think we should, maybe later in the show, I think we should maybe talk about what we would change this to, because I feel like it's not really fitting. It's not, is it really freedom of speech? Sometimes power, you know, sometimes the lines are about safety, sometimes it's morality, but what changes isn't the existence of limits, but who gets to define them, when they're enforced, and who they end up protecting or silencing. Throughout history, these boundaries have shifted depending on who held authority and which voices were considered dangerous, disruptive, or inconvenient. So a modern example of this ongoing debate is the US. Well, a modern example of this debate in the US is the Executive Order 14149. Do we know, have anyone heard of this? Because I was today years old. But I've already been, you know, thinking about this. It was issued on January 20th, 2025. And it's titled Restoring Freedom of Speech and Ending Federal Censorship. It's Executive Order 14149. And it was signed by President Donald Trump on the first day of his second term. The first day of his second term is a bit crazy. Like, this was one of the main things he had at the top of his list. Okay. And basically, the order aims to address what the administration views as government interference in speech rights, directing federal agencies to avoid actions that could limit Americans' free expression. So, surprise, just because we let me slow down and let me read some of the comments. Just because we overinterpret and apply to ourselves doesn't mean we are correct in doing so. I agree. That's what I was saying earlier. It's the understanding part, right? And just because, okay, so for me, I haven't really answered the questions. I've just kind of been listening to you and reading your responses, but I do believe that freedom of speech should be limitless. And I know it's kind of cringe when you really think about it, but I do. I think it should be limitless. And I believe that there should be a certain criteria, but I don't think that it should be rules. Hi, are you wanting to partake in the conversation about freedom of speech? Also no go. Because it's not freedom of say whatever the heck you want. It's always been a very specific type of freedom of speech. Okay. Speak like a tyrant and use power of the pulpit to denigrate and take down his perceived enemies. I think the real debate isn't whether free speech should have limits, though, because apparently it's always has across different culture, society. Maybe regular box after 3 consecutive logical comments, you'll put them in. If you, yeah, so if you guys would like to request the regular box like 7 did, feel free to request the box. I will be going in between date box and regular box if anyone wants to get in there. The question is whether the limits that freedom of speech have would actually serve justice, protect those that are vulnerable, and encourage truth, or whether that those limits exist to preserve comfort, maintain control, or protect the status quo. It's a guest box for faves only. About freedom of speech. Midnight. Tonight we're talking about freedom of speech. Welcome to Truth or Theory. Let's touch base again. If you are just tuning in, this is a safe space where we think differently, we dive deep, and we question everything in a fun and a curious way. Yeah, no, that's what I was gonna say. It is for anyone, and we're just gonna be on our toes. We've done it in the past. If you guys would like to request the box and you are going to be featured friendly, please do so. Tonight we're talking about freedom of speech. So the question that we just asked was, are there limits that you believe should exist on freedom of speech? Are there limits that you think that should, or do you think it should be limitless? And if you'd like, you can tell us some of the limits, right? Because it's freedom of speech, but like Jamie said, it's not freedom to, how did you say that? Not freedom to say whatever you won't. Can't promise feature friendly. Oh goodness. It's okay, guys. I'll be featured friendly enough. Okay, so now that was the halfway mark, guys, and we are going to get into our game. Shift up the energy a bit, mix it up a little bit. The rules are simple for this one. It's called speech with consequences. Speech with consequences, okay? I'll read a statement and you decide whether it needs consequences or not. And you can type legal, social, or no, right? Or LS or N if you want to do everything for short. So do you think it needs legal consequences, social consequences, or no consequences, okay? So once again, really quick, I'll read the statement and then you decide in the chat whether it needs legal consequences, social consequences, or no consequences. Okay, so first one, a politician lies about election results on live TV. Do you think that needs legal consequences, social consequences, or no consequences? Legal, social, or no? Okay, okay. I see some socials. I see some legals. Okay. Okay. It's whatever you think. It's no right or wrong answers. A student protests their school policy by blocking access to the classrooms. Do you think that's legal consequences, social consequences, or no consequences? They're blocking access to the classroom. Legal, social, or no? I see socials. Majority of the time should be social, but there are many cases where legal is necessary. We all know some. Okay, okay. Legal, okay, okay. I can see it. Okay, what about this? A journalist exposes some police misconduct and it causes public unrest. Everybody start going crazy. Do you think this journalist should get legal consequences, social consequences, or no consequences? A journalist exposes some police misconduct and it causes the public to start going crazy. See, and I see how that can go either legally wrong, not wrong at all, or socially wrong. Okay, so a public figure makes sexist comments during a podcast. Truth, right? It's truth. A public figure makes sexist comments during a podcast. Should that be legal consequences, social consequences, or no consequences? A public figure makes sexist comments during a podcast. Should that be legal consequences, social consequences, or no consequences? You did make it. Thank you. Mixed with both. Okay, I see you guys. Those cases involve most of us overreacting. Should just chill out. Social and legal, because that's considered libel, I believe. Okay, so having two, unfortunately none, right? Social and legal. I love the split answers. Okay, so Chow, we're playing speech with consequences. Anyone else that's just tuning in? The rules are simple. I'm reading statements and you decide whether it's a legal consequence, a social consequence, or no consequence, okay? A teacher refuses to use a student's preferred pronouns. A teacher refuses to use a student's preferred pronouns. Is that legal consequences, social consequences, or no consequences? It's legal. None. You guys are all over the place and I love it. I love it so much. Yes, okay. It's really whatever. Like, it's no wrong answers. It's whatever you feel morally that would be. That's really what it is these days. An employee leaks confidential workplace communications online. An employee leaks confidential workplace communications online. Is this legal, social, or no consequences? Legal, 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 legal. All right. What are the bylaws of the company is killing me. That just took me out. Unless it's the Epstein files, then none. Oh my goodness, okay. A student refuses to participate in a required class assignment on moral grounds. I can't do this because I'm morally compelled not to do this. A student refuses to participate in a required class assignment on moral grounds. Is that like legal consequences, social, or no? Judicial, like school dicial. What is that called? I said judicial, school dicial. That should be there legally. I guess legal in the terms of school, like should that teacher be able to grade that student an F because of this? Or can that student pass? Is the student getting an F or can that student somehow pass? The required class assignment. Makeup assignment, okay, something different. I like that. I agree. I like that. I'm looking at it the other way around. No, the teacher should not be able to do that. Right. It's whatever you think. It's whatever that teacher would think. And then it's really whatever the student would think based on the teacher's reaction. Like if the student felt like it wasn't fair, then the student, that's what I'm saying. It is very biased, right? But welcome to Truth or Theory. If you are just tuning in, this is a safe space. We like to think differently. We dive deep and we question everything in a fun and curious way. Please fave anyone in the audience that you're vibing with and that you're liking their answers. If you'd like to be a future guest, let us know. If you have any topics that you would like us to discuss on the show, let us know. Okay. And tonight, anyone is welcome in the box. My mouth is getting dry because I'm talking a lot. So let me take a little sip break. Oh, I want to. Who was the first human to find weed? Ganja. I think we're gonna have to add that as a add that to it. Sergio, can you reply in the comments and let us know if you are here to talk about the topic of freedom of speech? We are moving on to question 3. So, in today's culture, do you feel that people feel more free to speak, or do you think they feel more afraid to speak? Chantel, you think they feel more free or more afraid? How are we feeling? Okay. Ooh. Okay. Hey. Once again, in today's culture, do you feel people feel more free to speak or more afraid to speak? Some are sheep. They could be free, but they chose not to be. I see some afraids. I saw a Latina with free. Okay, I would love to know. That is very real, but not everyone has it. Definitely. Yeah. Okay. So studies show, you guys know I like my fun facts. Studies on online behavior show that fear of social backlash influences how people speak far more often than the fear of legal consequences. So it is more along the lines of fear, even though for some people it could be that freedom, right? But in the society that we are in, it is more like a fear. It creates like a, who cares for backlash? Can I speak my truth? Okay, yeah. Thank you for responding in the comments. Hi, Sergio. So we,
Hello, how are you doing today? My name is Sergio. I'm here to speak my truth. And what was the question?
so the question is, do you feel people are more free to speak, or do they feel more afraid to speak in today's, based on freedom of speech?
Based on freedom of speech, I feel like people are more afraid to speak because freedom of speech isn't really freedom anymore.
What do you think it's becoming?
Do you want to touch on that subject?
Not really.
He doesn't really want to touch on that subject.
No,
People are afraid to talk.
it takes courage. That's what he was just saying. Wait, prime example. They are worried about what others think when they speak their mind. Yeah, and it's like quick access. Everybody has access to see it live these days. If you say something
I'm so sorry.
you perceive as wrong.
You go tell her.
I'm just telling, gotta be true to myself.
I don't know what he said, but I don't know. So yeah, back to the fun fact. Studies on online behavior show that fear of social backlash influences how people speak far more than the fear of legal consequences. People don't really care about the police. It's more like they social media people, or even the people in their community, like their neighbors, right? Their family, their schoolmates, their co-workers, in one way or another. Right. Most people don't stay quiet because something is illegal. They stay quiet because they fear judgment, losing social connections, being misunderstood, or facing criticism from their peers. In other words, the social consequence of speaking out often feel more immediate, personal, and impactful. And we're gonna move on to our question 4, right? And y'all, thank you for vibing and staying and helping me keep this unorthodox show going tonight. I appreciate that. Question 4. If you had to redefine freedom of speech for this generation, what would your freedom of speech be? It doesn't even have to be called freedom of speech. Like, what would you consider it when it comes to speech? Like, what would you redefine it as? It doesn't need to be legally. Your offer still stands. If you're afraid of judgment, you are a sheep. We love intellect. Having an opinion with no judgment. Yeah, like, I'm gonna have this opinion regardless of what people say, I think, regardless of your opinion. Free speech 2.0. Having an opinion with no judgment. I like that. I like that a lot. Be yourself and don't follow others. Just be yourself. Don't forget where you come from. I like that. Humanity will judge is crazy. I like it, Midnight. Comedy, art. Okay. It doesn't need to be legally, just culturally. What definition feels like it fits? Say what you mean. Don't be a jerk. There will be consequences for what you say, but if you mean good, you shouldn't worry about the consequences. Music, movies. Keep the opinions more general, not personal. Me? My opinions? I don't want my opinions to be general. My opinions, your opinions don't need to be general. They should be very personal. Your opinions should be very personal. Okay? Yes, okay. So another fun fact, the concept of freedom of speech has always evolved with times. So what it meant in the 1700s, when we were speaking truth to kings and challenging the church, right? Or questioning authority, it's very different from what that means today. So in regards to us posting on social media, streaming, what we're doing right now, streaming our opinions or debating different topics in digital communities anywhere, right? Because we're in the age of technology. For this generation, free speech isn't just a legal right. It's a daily negotiation between expression, responsibility, and social reaction. It's about deciding what to say, where to say it, and how to deal with the consequences, whether that's online backlash, professional repercussions, or a cultural debate. In a world where anyone can broadcast their thoughts to thousands or millions at a time, freedom of speech is both more powerful and more complicated than ever. And I'm going to go through the comments, and does anyone have any questions that they want to ask regarding this freedom of speech conversation? We still have 10 more minutes, and people misjudge you today. People misjudge you tomorrow. Pay no attention to them and remain yourself. Yes, yes, yes. personal opinions done publicly can be very damaging to end people's careers and lives. I agree. I agree. I mean, personal opinions definitely can be. Each points, 10 points for Latina. Stud steals Latina's points. Eat some. Yum, yum, yum. Stud so hungry. No, you're good, Jimmy. I was like, my opinions will always be personal. Not just like not saying that I'm just, I feel like morally, I couldn't really just say exactly how I feel 100%. I'm more like, when it comes to the things that I'm passionate about, I will speak on that wholeheartedly. Now, if it's something that does not affect me, I'm not going to waste my breath. You know what I mean? If it doesn't affect me personally, I feel like that's not my right to speak on. And I know I said I feel like no, child, stop it. I feel like there's no limits to freedom of speech, but choose your battles wisely, right? Like not every conversation has to be a battle. I just choose to lead with love 9 times out of 10. 9 times out of 10. Don't get me wrong. It's an understanding within yourself. Yes, you're right. You do not have that luxury like some other people might have more license to do so. Yeah, I mean, no, not really. You pick your battles, you pick your poison, right? Coughs into their hand. Everybody's allowed. Brewhead, what does that mean? 7 out of 10 for me. Tread lightly. Right? I am healing, not healed. Be careful. Abracadabra. You guys are funny. So, if there's no more last comments, guys, let me just post this poll once again just to see where we stand, because third time's the charm. Should freedom of speech have limits? No limits, no limits, yeah. That was me first. The messenger often gets killed because of their skin color. Which limits do we speak of? Any limits? Any limits? If you feel like it should have any limits on any level, it would be yes. If you feel like it should be no limits to it, but then that would lead to another whole discussion about, right? What would those limits be? Like if we were in the position of power to be writing, I guess, the rules, or what is it called, like the details for the freedom of speech and within the Constitution, like what would we put? Like what would those details be? For me, I feel like I don't want to be in power position for it, because I feel like I'm more lenient than a lot of people. Like I said, I'm 9 out of 10. And then Hazel says she's 7 out of 10, you know? I'm more lenient. Like, shoot, it might rub me the wrong way. I see 4 no's, 3 yeses. See, we're split. We're all over the place. It might rub me the wrong way, but I'm more lenient with what people say, because that is your right to say what you want. Now, it's my right to choose if I still want to surround myself with your energy based off of the things you choose to say, right? And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to, uh, that choice. No, that's not the limit, because just because I don't like it don't mean that you can't say it. Say what you want, just not in my house. Exactly. Right. There's some people who are, all of our choices are different. But that is a wrap for tonight on Truth or Theory. Thank you to all of our guests, all of our chats, all of our guests in the chat, and everyone that helped keep the conversation honest, deep, and thought-provoking. It was a roller coaster. I appreciate you guys for riding it out with me. Remember, this is always a safe space to question, explore, and challenge different ideas, even my ideas. I love it when you guys challenge me. I love it when you keep me stumped like, I don't really have a response for that. I'm still gaining an opinion on what you just told me, you know? But remember, the truth is not always comfortable, and a theory is not always wrong. So don't forget to fave, everybody. And next week, we are going to be talking about Mercury retrograde, because that was the only topic that anyone in the chat requested be added to the poll. So if you guys have any topics you want to add to the poll, let us know. Just drop different topics that you think would be good for us to talk about, and we will be, we'll get around to it. But next week. Exactly. It's in Gatorade right now. Are you kidding me, folks? Come on. Next week on Truth or Theory, though. And we still have 4 minutes, so I still have to keep it feature friendly. Thank you, Soul Seductress. Because this is a journey of self-discovery and knowledge, not a destination. It's the journey. It's all a journey. Thank you for the hearts. Blessed be. Slapped is an understatement. Wait. Say what you won't. Prepare to get slapped. You guys are funny and amusing. Yep. Happy Thursday. My day's been great. Whew. Troglodytic. And it's conceptual and analytical depth. We can do better, people. Jamie, drop some topics. Let us know what type of topics you would want to discuss on Truth or Theory. How you feeling, Rambo? Today, you just missed the show, Rambo. You would have been such a great insight to have. He said, that's wild. Oh, I'm going to search back for you. Hold on.
Hi.
Hi, is this Rambo? Who is this?
No, this is Divine.
Okay, hi, Divine. We were talking about freedom of speech today.
Freedom of speech. Oh.
What does that mean to you? Like, what does freedom of speech mean to you, Divine?
Freedom of speech. You say whatever you want to say without, well, you can say whatever you want to say, technically. That's why freedom of speech to me, even if you're threatening somebody, that's still freedom of speech. So however you want to look at it, that part.
It's freedom of speech. Say what you want.
Right.
And so you think there should be no limits to freedom of speech?
I think there should be boundaries. Like
okay.
everything. Yeah, I think there's.
Yes, I did. I made it into, I helped it. I used.
Yeah, I think there should be